Welcome in, Admirals fans. I'm Admirals reporter Nicole Sedivy, joined now by the voice of your Milwaukee Admirals, Aaron Sims. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me
It's
today.
always good to be with you, Nicole.
Yes, and we are ready to break down the Central Division semifinals between the Admirals and the Texas Stars. That's coming up on Thursday, May 2nd. It's a best of five series. Now, Aaron, we're not experiencing deja vu, right? This is back to back years that we're going to face them in
Back to
the Calder
back
Cup playoffs.
semifinals this year. Last year it was the division finals. Had it been Manitoba, then it would have been really weird. Like lightning strikes three times in a row. This year, again, the Admirals 1-5 last year against Texas. This year it's a best of five series against Texas. Just saw them a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. So yeah, looking forward to again another entertaining series between these teams.
Yeah, different parts of the playoffs that they're meeting up this year, but what's different from last year to this year going into the playoffs?
Well, for Texas, one, I think, and again, the Admirals beat them, but Texas was the division champs last season. Their defensemen were so strong. Their goaltending was basically the same as what they have now, personnel wise, anyway. But the defensemen were so strong. They've lost some players from last year's team on the blue line, and they've lost some players as this season has gone on. So while there is still some experience, a guy like Alex Petrovic is fantastic in this league, but they don't have the strength on defense that they used to. Up front, Texas has the league's leading scorer and MVP in Maverick Bourque. They have currently with Dallas, and if Dallas continues to go well, I don't know that Logan Stankoven will be back, but he, to me, is the X factor in this whole thing for the Texas Stars. I thought he was the best player that the Admirals saw this season. I think a lot of people who did see him thought he was the best player in the American Hockey League this season, but he didn't have the counting stats. So at the end of the year, us idiots in the media do not get the chance to vote for a guy unless we see the counting stats, and he didn't have them because he just didn't play that many games. Monte Blumel was a 30-goal scorer. So they have some guys with a lot of skill. I don't think they're as deep on the blue line as they were last season. For the Admirals now, they had the 19-game winning streak. Then it was a bit of a lull, but the team finishes 4-1-1. They kind of had to find their identity once again and build a new identity from what they were before. I think losing Mark Jankowski, I think if we look back on this season and give it a little space, and maybe even now would be fair to say, I think Mark Jankowski is the MVP of this team this season. He was so good. He took almost every faceoff, every important faceoff, certainly. So good. Led the team in scoring. He's still up there. He hasn't been here for 2 months, and he's still third on the team in scoring. So he's been magnificent, and he's done a great job, by the way, in Nashville. So the differences between the teams, I think the Admirals have had to change their style, and they're not as high. They'll hit you a little bit more than they would have at the beginning of the year. So I think that's one big change here, that the Admirals are a little different than they were, not only from last season, but what they were 2 months ago.
You touched on a lot of key players throughout the series. I want to start with Maverick Bourque. You mentioned he's the league leader in points. He had 77 this year. He's already made an impact in the first two games for the Stars against the Manitoba Moose, picking up 4 points. What's it going to take to stop him?
Well, that's a question, because Maverick Bourque, he was out there with Stankoven specifically and with Curtis McKenzie. That is one of the best lines in the American Hockey League. And Maverick Bourque and Logan Stankoven are, at least for the moment, in the National Hockey League. And we'll see, there's going to be a lot of roster changes still because of the playoffs and the how long it has taken to get going with this round of the playoffs. I'm honestly surprised that Manitoba didn't at least push that series to 3 games. So I give Texas a lot of credit, and a player like Bourque a lot of credit, because, again, he is a guy who he put up the points this season, and it's not an easy thing to do, to put up the points, mind you. But you start to wonder, okay, you're with these other great players. Points are going to come because you're playing with these other great players. Well, maybe it's my time, and maybe I'm the only one, but maybe it's my time to think that Maverick Bourque is a pretty special player. He's former first-round pick. He's done extremely well against the Admirals. What does it take to slow him down? It takes. It's going to be interesting to see how it's going to try to slow him down, because the Admirals don't have the matchups. And Carl Taylor's not a big matchup guy anyway. He doesn't necessarily, he doesn't have a checking line, because what happens then is, and Claude Noel exploited Michel Therrien back in 2004 with this. Michel Therrien was matching up in the Calder Cup finals for Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Well, you know what that meant? His best players never played, because he was always worried about the matchups against the Admirals top line. So we're not going to necessarily match up among the forwards. Kevin Gravel, Roland McEwen, those are the guys that you like to see out there against a Maverick Bork. If Stankoven comes back, players like that, maybe Blumel, but Bork, so without in the absence of Stankoven, Bork is definitely the guy who drives that machine.
You mentioned Matej Blumel right there at the end. He is a guy who likes to shoot the puck a lot,
Yeah,
along with Bork, and he's the top 5 goal scorer in the league
yeah.
as well. What can Yaroslav Askarov expect from these guys between the pipes?
Well, he's seen them a lot, right? I mean, the
Mhm.
Admiral saw him 8 times this season. He saw them last year. Among the forwards, anyway, Texas has a lot of the same players that they did last season. So, yeah, he's going to have to expect a lot of shots. You may remember way back the first meeting between these teams this year. 20 seconds left in the game, and Blumel scores to give the Stars a 3-2 win. You thought you're destined for overtime. That didn't happen. They score late in the contest. So they're a dangerous team. They're a dangerous offensive team. They're a dangerous team at home, and it's always something funky happening down there in Texas. It always seems there's a bad hop. What's interesting too to me is the Admirals goaltenders, Yaroslav Askarov being among them. Um, the save percentage against Rockford, against Grand Rapids is out of this world. But against Texas, against Manitoba, it's under 90%. And so and the same thing for the other team too. So you get high scoring games, and you get into these high scoring games, and teams get this false sense of openness or whatever, and one mistake is going to cost you. So for Yaroslav Askarov, you can say, you need to play it this way, you need to play it safer, it's the playoffs, all of that stuff. You can't put any restrictions on him. Play your game, be comfortable, be who you are, go out there, and I mean, worked out for the most part pretty well for him in his young career.
Yeah, he's one of the best goaltenders of the league. 30 wins this year,
Yeah.
6 shutouts. As you mentioned, kind of the goaltending matchup is similar to last year. You have Remy Poirier again in the net for Texas. He's coming off a 41 save shutout.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this matchup.
He's been magnificent. He got called up last year. He had a tremendous year in the ECHL. Got called up, and he didn't wrestle the job away from Matt Murray last season, but he started to get more and more time as the season went on. They went with Matt Murray in the playoffs last year. This year, excuse me, with Murray being a little bit back and forth, and he's up now as the third goaltender for Dallas. And again, maybe we see him back if Dallas gets eliminated, or even if they don't, maybe they do make another move and Murray is back. But Remy Poirier has proven in his 2 games against Manitoba that he is built for the playoffs. He's won 2 playoff games now. So talented goaltender. Remember last season he got in the fight with Yaroslav Askarov down in Texas. So there's a little fire there too. They know this matchup extremely well, and I'm looking forward to whether it's Yaro or Troy or Remy Poirier, Matt Murray, Ben Cross, whoever it might be. I mean, it's the guys around them, but the goalies have to come up big, and Poirier with 41 saves against Manitoba certainly did.
And the Admirals have some dangerous weapons as well. We have Igor, 54 points, leading the team, 27 goals, 27 assists. Ty Felliber, these guys were key against Texas this year, each with 2 goals, 4 assists in them in the regular season. Where do you see them making the biggest impact?
Well, it's going to be the same thing, right? Igor was just okay. I'm just kidding. All season long. All season long. And I'm eager to see playoff Igor. Last year, I tell you what, his playoffs last season was magnificent, and part of that was against Texas. Big forward, he can rip the puck. 5-on-5 hockey, I'm not too worried necessarily about the Admirals. It's going to be the special teams to me, but when you talk about specific players, Igor is one certainly. Ty Felliber, there's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He played for Texas. He doesn't feel like he got the shot that he deserved down there, even though he's undrafted. So the politics play in on that. You always want your draft picks to get the first crack at jobs. But Ty Felliber is a guy who he's had a ton of skill. Well, you know what? To play at this level and to be in the lineup for the Milwaukee Admirals right now, you have to be a little bit of a jerk out there. And Ty's been playing that role really, really well of late. He's in the midst of everything, and it's awesome to see. A guy like Ozzy Weisblatt is a guy who gets in the middle of everything and throws some hits. That's awesome to see. Kevin Wall, if he's in the lineup, he's been the same thing. And that has kind of gone through the lineup. More and more guys playing more physically. You saw Phil Tomasino at the end of the year get into a scrap. And by the way, have a great run offensively for the Admirals over the last few years. So this is an Admirals team that, again, it looks different from what it had during that 19-game winning streak. They've had to change the identity a little bit with some of the names I've mentioned, playing a little more prominent roles, Felliber and the like. But it's a really good team right now, really good team. And the way this team finished, going 4-1-1 in the last 6, in games that largely didn't matter to the team, I really like the way they're going.
You said special teams are going to play a big
Yeah.
one, big impact in this one. Texas is really good
Yeah.
on the power play, but they're not so great on the penalty
Yeah.
kill. How does Milwaukee special teams defend against that man advantage for Texas while also capitalizing when they're on the man advantage?
Yeah, well, and the thing there too is you're well coached, you're well schooled. You know, you've seen these teams so many times. You know exactly what they want to do. The problem is just going out to execute what you want to do. So the power play goals, you just try to stay out of the penalty box first and foremost, right? You got to play hard, you got to play fast, you got to play physical. Try to stay away from the offensive zone hooking penalties. Try to stay away from the flipping the puck out of the zone into the seats on the defensive side to get the delay of game penalties. If you need to take a penalty, go ahead, because it seems like guys dig in a little bit more if it's a hard penalty. So yeah, the Admirals basically just need to execute. Now, that being said, that's been a little bit of an issue for this team this season. They've given up a lot of power play goals. They haven't scored many power play goals. It's been an anomaly with this club this season. But you still have Kevin Gravel, playoff tested. He has a Calder Cup championship. One of the best shutdown defensemen in the American Hockey League. You have Roland McEwen, playoff tested, shutdown defenseman, Calder Cup championship. Mark Delgaizo, who I think is going to be a huge X factor for the Admirals. That's not really saying anything out of school too much. I mean, he was magnificent in the playoffs last season, but I think Mark is poised to have, again, build on what he did last year on the blue line. So I'm looking forward to those guys on the penalty kill. Now, the power play, I don't know where you go with this. I mean, Carl Taylor is an expert. He knows what he's doing with this stuff. Texas knows him well, right? Carl coached Texas's power play. Like, they know exactly what's going to happen. It comes down to execution once again. Crisper passes. Having Jordan Gross back helps a ton. Having Ryan Ufko start to grow into a quarterback in waiting sort of role, that helps a ton. So to get those guys out, that's going to help. You've had a couple of weeks to practice. It isn't necessarily against live defense, but you're going to have to do what you can, and they can turn around and pump a couple pucks in on the power play, because it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge if you can do that.
And back to 5-on-5 play, the Admirals are good, really, really good when they score first. They're 34 wins, 70 points good when they put the net in, when they put the puck in the net first. Now, they have 61 goals in the first period, 81 in the second and third frames. What is the key to generating those good offensive shifts in those first 20 minutes and getting a goal in that?
I think a lot of it has to do with transition. Get the puck in your zone, get up ice as quickly as possible. I mean, so many of these goals for the Admirals, and they haven't been power play goals, as we just kind of said. It's been the transition. And it's not necessarily the first 2 minutes of a period, but that happens. But it is getting up ice. It's making it, of late, it's been making a hit, getting the puck to the slot, and shooting the puck into the net. That's been working more and more for the Admirals of late. So that's what it's going to be again. Put the puck in a place where the defenseman has to turn, lay a hit, retrieve the puck, and get it to a spot where you can get the puck into the net. Get these grade A chances out there.
Well, you know I'm going to do it to you.
Yep.
It's time. Admirals in what?
3.
Admirals in 3?
3. No. Well, I have to say that, right? Who pays me?
Absolutely.
I think the Admirals win. 5-game series would not surprise me again. 5-3. The Admirals went 5-3 against Texas this season. They went 2-2 down there, 3-1 at Panther Arena. They won 3 straight at Panther Arena. Some of those wins were included during the winning streak and all of that stuff, including maybe the Admirals, and not their best game during that streak was a 2-1 shootout win over Texas. Troy Grostek was magnificent to keep the streak going for Milwaukee. But I just think they're the first seed for a reason. And they figured out the last couple of weeks how to play with different personnel and against different personnel. And I just have a hard time thinking that the first place team isn't going to beat the fourth place team. Anything can happen, of course, but I think the Admirals are poised for a nice run.
Well, it is always a pleasure picking your brilliant hockey brain.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the contract
extension
as well.
Yeah.
I can speak for all of us when I say you're the best in the business, and we're so lucky to have you here.
That's flattering. Thank you. Thank you. My family is happy that I'm out of the house.
Yeah. Well, safe travels to Texas,
yes,
because the Central Division semifinals get started on Thursday, May 2nd in Texas. You can listen to Aaron on the call on the Big 920 as well as the iHeartRadio app. Go Admirals, right, Aaron?
Let's go Admirals.
Thanks for joining in.